What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. Hurricane Lee is starting to make that turn towards the north. Hurricane Margot is still meandering out in the Atlantic Ocean. And Invest 97 or 98L, it's now 97L actually, is currently organizing at a very fast pace across the Maine development region. We're going to cover all the stuff that's going on in the tropics, so that way we keep you up to speed of what the hell is going on out here. So that's what we have going on. We're going to go ahead and start with Hurricane Lee, still a major hurricane, Category 3 with winds of 115 miles per hour. It is starting to make that turn to the north. It is now moving north-northwest at 9 miles per hour. Its current location is 26.4 degrees north, 67.2 degrees west, and the current pressure is 948 millibars as of right now. It's been fluctuating the pressure has been fluctuating up and down, as of late, so we'll have to keep an eye on it. This is also a very, very large hurricane right here. Hurricane force winds extend out 115 miles from the center, and tropical storm force winds extend out 240 miles from the center. A tropical storm warning is in effect for Bermuda, as this thing is expected to move west of Bermuda and bring TS force winds over there. Slow weakening is forecast during the next few days. However, Lee is likely to remain a large and dangerous hurricane into this weekend. If we go ahead and show you the discussion, this is what we have right here. Satellite images suggest that Lee seems to be beginning its northward turn to the western side of a subtropical ridge situated over the central Atlantic. This latest initial motion estimated is about 6 knots. Lee should gradually increase in forward speed while moving northward on the western side of the ridge, yada, yada, yada. It's expected to move towards New England. Here's the intensity right here. Right now, 115 miles per hour. It's expected to weaken to Category 2 strength in the next 12 hours as we speak, and then to 105, then 100, then weakens to a Category 1 hurricane in the next 48 hours as it's approaching New England and Nova Scotia, and then it makes landfall in the next 4 days. It becomes post-tropical, and it's inland. We can go ahead and show you the cone on that as well. Here is that's not the wind field, that's the cone. And this thing is expected to either make landfall near the U.S.-Canadian border or near Nova Scotia over here. There's a bit of a cone that's going on, and pretty much almost the entire state of Maine is in that. So at least Maine and maybe New Hampshire and parts of Massachusetts are going to see a lot of impacts from this system right here. We'll have to continue to keep an eye on it as this thing turns to the north and brings potentially a very big system to New England over here. Just keep in mind that this part of the United States is not exactly built for hurricanes, so we'll have to keep an eye on it as time continues to progress here on out. So that's what we have for Hurricane Lee for now. Next one we're showing you is Margot. Very quickly, this is a 90-mile-per-hour hurricane. We're just going to go over the quick synoptics of this 970 millibars. It's moving at 7 miles per hour. Hurricane force winds extend out 70 miles from the center, and tropical storms 230 miles from the center. So almost as large as Hurricane Lee tropical storm force winds wise. So that's definitely something to keep an eye out for those of you who have shipping going on through this part of the Atlantic right here, especially near the Azores Islands. But here's the main focus that I want to pay attention to for the next week or so. This is Invest 97L, as we were talking about. A broad area of low pressure over the eastern tropical Atlantic continues to produce some disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Gradual development is expected over the next few days, and a tropical depression is likely to form by the weekend over the central tropical Atlantic. We now have a 50% chance of formation in the next 48 hours, and an 80% chance of formation in the next 7 days. So this thing has been organizing at a decent pace. As you can see on satellite, there's a lot more convection firing up on 97L. So definitely something to monitor as time continues to progress. It looks like that western area of interest overtook the eastern part of that 98L. So now we're going to have to wait and see how this whole thing plays out. So that's the situation we have going on right here. Now we're going to go ahead and kind of show you the track models and intensity for Lee. Here's the track models for Lee as this thing continues to approach Canada and the United States over here. It's approaching Halifax, Nova Scotia, Atlantic Canada, and then it's expected to move through Newfoundland or Quebec over here. while bringing major impacts to Maine, New Hampshire, potentially Massachusetts down there, as the wind field is large enough for that. Now the intensity forecast. All the models are calling for a gradual weakening. In the next 72 hours, it's expected to become a Category 1 hurricane, and then from there it starts to impact more and more land and weakens further and further as it moves through the cooler waters and land interaction over there. So that's what we have going on with Hurricane Lee over here as it's making its final approach towards Atlantic Canada and towards New England. So that's Lee. We're going to go ahead and show you Invest 97L. We'll show you the track models with 97L. Track models mainly have this thing keeping out to sea. However, there is still some uncertainty of what's going to happen after 5 days, so we'll have to continue to pay attention to it as time continues to go on. And the intensity models, majority of the models are calling for this thing to be a hurricane at some point, some of which have this thing becoming a Category 1 in the next 60 hours. However, the majority of them have this thing becoming a hurricane in the next 3 to 4 days or so, so we'll have to pay attention. The HAFBI is calling for this thing to get up to Category 5 strength, while the majority of them are keeping it around Category 2, Category 3 strength, at least for the time being, and there's plenty of good conditions for that as well, so we'll have to continue to monitor it as time continues to go on. This hurricane season has been very crazy altogether already in an El Nino year, so we'll have to continue to monitor it for sure. We're going to go ahead and next talk about some conditions that are going on. Here's the good conditions. Global sea temperatures for Lee, Margot, and what's eventually going to become Nigel are quite good. Where Lee is right now, it's in an area of around 28 degrees Celsius. However, it is starting to make that turn to the north, and then it's going to enter this bit of cold wake right here that is still left behind by Hurricane Franklin, and then it's going to traverse through the cooler waters and start gradually weakening as time continues to go on. We're going to go ahead and also show you the OHC with this, the ocean heat content. OHC, at least in the cold wake, is improving for now. However, at this point, we are still going to have to pay attention to it. Where the future Nigel is, or 97L is, it's in an area of around 25 to 50 OHC. It's expected to gradually increase as time continues to go on. Where Lee's was right here, like Lee's been been leaving a bit of a trail of OHC, less OHC rather, so we'll have to monitor that as well as this thing continues to intensify and organize. Where Margot is, it's in an area of, again, 25 to 50 OHC. However, it's not expected to increase. It's expected to meander in the Atlantic Ocean over there, and it's expected to gradually weaken. Now we'll show you the wind shear that we have pulled up. The wind shear from the outflow of Lee has started to retract a bit more to the west from yesterday. Where Margot is, there's not very much wind shear at all. However, as Lee approaches Newfoundland, as it approaches Nova Scotia, as it approaches New England, the shear is expected to persist throughout its entire lifespan as it's approaching New England, and that's part of the reason why it's also going to be weakening as well. But the outflow has weakened quite a bit, and it's pushed quite a bit more to the west, which is allowing 97L to gradually organize and gradually develop through this area, this pocket of low wind shear. So we'll have to keep an eye on how these play out as time continues to progress. But for now, things are looking very, very good for both of these systems. Now we're going to go ahead and show you the latest hurricane models right here. Here's the hurricane models for Hurricane Lee. The 12Z is coming out right now, so we'll go ahead and show you the 6Z as this continues to come out. Here's what we have for the H-Wharf. This thing starts to make that turn, and it gradually starts weakening as it's making its final approach to Maine. It's making its final approach to Atlantic Canada, and it's making its final approach to land over here. So as this thing continues to go on, it becomes a very large system, obviously, and then we start to see some more and more impacts going through Maine, going through Massachusetts, going through New Hampshire. So that's pretty interesting. If we go ahead and show you the infrared satellite estimation right here, we can get a better close eye of this. But yeah, I could definitely see Vermont getting impacts, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and obviously Maine. So if you're living in Maine, you're going to have to monitor this as time continues to go on. This could be making landfall as a very strong tropical storm. And I know the areas in New England aren't exactly built for these kinds of natural disasters. I know they're built for like more, even to some extent, severe weather and winter weather, but not really hurricanes. So we'll have to keep an eye on it as time continues to go on. So that's what we have going on with the H-Wharf. Next storm we're going to go ahead and show you is the H-Mon for Lee. The 12Z is coming out, so we'll give you the 6Z as a substitute. As this thing continues to weaken and approach the United States, this thing has it making landfall near the U.S.-Canadian border while bringing lots and lots of impacts to Maine, maybe Massachusetts, and New Hampshire as well. So we'll have to continue to keep an eye on it as time continues to progress with what we have from the H-Mon. Next one we're showing you is the HAVS A with Lee. The HAVS A has this thing making a final approach as it continues to gradually weaken, and makes that final approach near the U.S.-Canadian border, similar to that of the H-Mon, while bringing lots and lots of impacts to Massachusetts, to much of New Hampshire, and Maine as well. If we go ahead and show you the infrared satellite on that, we can get a better idea of who may get impacted. Definitely could see some impacts in Vermont, parts of Ontario, parts of Connecticut, Rhode Island, those areas right there. So that's what we have going on, at least for the time being. Now for the HAVS B for Lee. The HAVS B is coming out but here's what we have going on as this thing continues to approach land over here. It brings lots and lots of impacts to areas like upstate New York, potentially New York City could see a bit of rain from this, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, obviously Maine, as the system continues to approach closer and closer to the mainland. And then it makes the HAVS B has this thing making landfall in the center of Maine, and then starts moving inland as a post-tropical cyclone. So everyone in New England needs to continue to monitor this situation as more information continues to come in. We'll quickly go over a couple of models for Invest 97L. We'll go over the H-Mon and the H-Wharf for 97L for the time being. So here's the H-Mon for the H-Wharf for 97L right there. I apologize for that. Now as things organizing, gradually developing, starts strengthening up to tropical storm strength as we continue to show that. If we go ahead and show you the main sea level winds, we're starting to see those tropical storm force winds and then eventually hurricane force winds in the next 5 days, according to the 6Z of the H-Wharf. Now if we go ahead and show you the H-Mon of 97L, we'll go back to the 6Z since that's fully out. The 12Z still needs to come out. This thing's organizing, developing, starts to gradually strengthen into a tropical storm, and then eventually a hurricane as things continue to progress and the pressure gets down to 984 5 days out. So that's the situation we have going on over here. We'll have to keep you updated here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel as more information comes out. If you want to come see the behind the scenes of how these videos play out, be sure to join the Storms United Discord server. Link is right over there on the end screen, or right over there. I'm not 100% sure which one. It'll still be there. That's what I'm trying to say. But with that being said, we're closing the video out right here. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. It helps us out and helps us make more videos like these. The goal of this channel is to get more people engaged with weather. But with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.